In the past month, Tory Lanez was nearly stabbed to death. Multiple rappers like Kanye and Drake have shared a petition to free Tory, and there's even a congresswoman who has been adamantly trying to get Tory freed. But why is all of this happening right now, when Tory Lanez was sentenced to prison 2 years ago after being found guilty of shooting Megan Thee Stallion in the foot? Well, there's been a ton of misinformation, conspiracy theories, and commentary surrounding this entire situation that makes it very confusing. So today I'm going to break the entire thing down so that we can all understand the situation a bit better. Now, people have been adamantly trying to get Tory freed ever since he was sentenced, but the Free Tory movement picked up a lot of steam after he was stabbed last May. On May 12th of 2025, news broke that Tory Lanez had been stabbed 14 times while in prison. He was stabbed in the back 7 times, 4 in his torso, 2 to the back of his head, and 1 to the left side of his face. Because of this, both of his lungs collapsed and he was rushed to the hospital. He was placed on a breathing apparatus, but eventually he pulled through. His official Instagram posted about the incident saying, "Despite being in pain, he is talking normally, in good spirits, and deeply thankful to God that he is pulling through. He also wants to thank everyone for the continued prayers and support." The person who attacked him was Santino Casio, who is currently being investigated. He is also serving a life sentence for second-degree murder and first-degree attempted murder. Santino did an interview with TMZ and claimed that he acted out in self-defense.
So I heard some rumors that he was trying to put money on my head. He felt uncomfortable living next to me. Said I was a threat. So I confronted him. He stood in front of my cell, looked at his boys, made his little smirk. And when he showed me what he had and something in his pocket, I just rushed him. What he showed me looked to me like I believed it could be a weapon at the time. So I rushed him and I just snatched him. I just took advantage of him. He was weak. I just threw him all over and I just kept slamming him and stabbing him.
However, him saying I was throwing him around doesn't really sound like self-defense, and if I played the whole interview, it definitely doesn't sound like it. Regardless though, I think this incident motivated people to feel pretty bad for Tory. If you thought he was innocent, you definitely felt really bad about this. And even if you didn't think he was innocent, I'm sure a brutal attack like this doesn't sound like something you'd want to happen to anyone. And after his family chimed in, it seemed like the Free Tory movement really picked up some steam. A couple of days after the stabbing, Tory's dad hosted a press conference alongside other family members and spoke about his son's situation.
My son, as I stood with him in the hospital room, on the first day, my wife being present, said, "Dad, I'm not holding any animosity against this guy. I don't want to take any action against him. Whatever the system does, the system does." But that is his stance, and that is our stance. Might I go a little bit further? Because this will not be the first time I've said this publicly. I bear Megan Thee Stallion no aught at all. In fact, we have prayed for her on many occasions.
It was definitely very emotional and serious. Tory's lawyers also showed up and said they had new evidence that Kelsey, who is Megan's assistant, her one-time bodyguard Bradley James, had finally decided to speak out.
James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Miss Harris had where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody.
Walter Roberts says the statement aligns with another witness who saw 2 women fighting.
And while this does sound like breaking news to many, I will touch more on this later. Also after the stabbing, a congresswoman named Anna Paulina Luna has adamantly been advocating for Tory's freedom. Apparently after being reached out to by Amber Rose, Luna started trying to get Tory a pardon. She said, "This was pretty egregious the way this was handled. I think it was largely driven by headline. Obviously, domestic violence I take very seriously, but I also take very seriously the fact that I do believe, based on the evidence that I've seen, that Tory's innocent." For weeks, she's been trying to talk about freeing Tory on Twitter, as well as posting her evidence as to why Tory was wrong. She has also been trying to get California Governor Gavin Newsom to review the case. She's been posting threads on Twitter and then linked a website called 36hourslater.com. This is a website created by Tory Lanez's defense team that has a bunch of suppressed evidence that proves Tory Lanez is innocent. The website also said, "The truth becomes clear when the facts come to light. Key inconsistencies, unreliable testimony, and missing evidence prove detective Daystar Peterson, which is Tory's real name, was convicted based on a flawed and incomplete narrative. In this webpage, they talk about a lot of things and share some supposedly new evidence. However, a lot of the stuff that they bring up was mentioned in the trial. For example, something that went viral recently was the footage of Megan saying she stepped on glass at first.
Cannot go to gym. Okay. I cannot have that on my image.
Okay. So how did that happen to you?
Glass.
Glass? Where?
Where we were coming from.
That's the only place you got shot?
I didn't get shot.
Oh, you did it?
No, ma'am. I mean, no, sir.
It almost seemed like the lawyers even suggested that Megan wasn't actually shot. Tory's team also tried to make it seem like Jaquan Smith, the driver who was there, not testifying, really hurt his case. But spoiler alert, they were the ones who actually declined to call him to testify, which makes it seem like he wouldn't have been a reliable witness for this case. Regardless of all this, I will definitely touch on more of this later, the website also encourages viewers to sign a petition to pardon Tory Lanez, and the petition has over 300,000 signatures. And the petition hasn't just been shared by Luna, it's also been shared by a lot of popular artists such as Drake, Kanye, and Kodak Black, which hasn't come without a little bit of pushback from fans. Regardless though, change.org petitions don't really have any actual, legal power, and I also don't think a single congresswoman can make much of a difference in getting him a pardon. But to be fair, with how liberal Trump has been with all these pardons and even talking about possibly pardoning Diddy, as well as pardoning other criminals like Larry Hoover and people like NBA Youngboy, at this point, who knows what could happen. After Tory's defense team went live with the 36 Hours Later website, Megan's attorneys responded to it. They said Tory Lanez's team can't keep a story straight. Last week, they argued that Kelsey Harris shot Megan, and now they're claiming that Megan only stepped on glass. They continued to rehash old evidence from trial and repackage it as new information to desperately sway public opinion. But to truly understand why Tory is in jail despite so many people thinking he should be free, why people think Megan is lying, what the lawyers are arguing about, what all of this new evidence actually means, and who is telling the truth, we have to go back to the beginning. In 2020, both the rappers Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez were fairly popular and had some pretty successful careers under their belt. Around this time, Tory was also blowing up again for his viral quarantine radio Instagram lives, which you might remember for all the freestyles and celebrity guests. And one of these guests happened to be Megan Thee Stallion. After multiple appearances on the live stream, fans noticed that the artist started to become close. They started hanging out a bunch, and there was a bit of a flirty vibe, so fans began to take notice. However, just months later, on July 12th, things took a dark turn. At approximately 4:30 a.m., officers responded to a call about shots fired. The witness provided a description of the suspect in their vehicle, which the officers ended up locating and then conducting a traffic stop where multiple suspects were detained. After finishing their investigation, Megan was sent to the hospital for a foot injury, and Tory was arrested and charged with the felony count of concealing a firearm in his vehicle. The next day, Tory was bonded out for $35,000, but at this point, the story had already broke, with TMZ leaking footage of the arrest, and rumors began to swirl. In the TMZ reported arrest footage, you can hear her assistant Kelsey say, "Megan, are you okay?" During the next few days, more and more news of the incident started going viral, which led to a lot of theories. These were fueled even further by another angle of the incident, which TMZ released days later, which showed bloody footprints around Megan as she exited the SUV. As it turns out, Tory, his bodyguard Meg, and her friend/assistant Kelsey Nicole were coming from a pool party at Kylie Jenner's.
Tory, don't get my phone wet.
In response to the public's growing concern about the whole situation, the LAPD put out a statement. They said, at the time Megan Thee Stallion was with the police, she did not report that she was the victim of any crime, and the LAPD has not received any additional information at this time. They also said that Meg told them her foot was injured because she stepped on broken glass, and that the reported shots fired were into the air. Around this time, Kelsey took to social media to clarify her innocence, saying, "I want to clear the rumors that I shot Megan. I wasn't the one with the gun and would never do something like that. However, I was present." So by this point, no one really thought it was Tory. Like, there was obviously theories that it was Tory, but no one really was fully saying it until Megan's producer was one of the first people that fueled the rumors, saying, "At Tory Lanez, count your days." And in another post, he said, "I care about my people being straight. Give a damn about some clout." In the midst of all this chaos, news outlets like TMZ and Page 6 officially started pushing the narrative that Tory shot Meg. And they even mentioned the potential existence of a video during the actual shooting. However, they also stated that the truth was unclear. Regardless, as I'm sure you can imagine, without any of the context that we have today, people were very confused and fans were eager to know what actually went down. To address all of the growing theories, Megan said, On Sunday morning, I suffered gunshot wounds as a result of a crime that was committed against me and done with the intention to physically harm me. I was never arrested. The police officers drove me to the hospital where I underwent surgery to remove the bullet. I'm incredibly grateful to be alive and that I'm expected to make a full recovery, but it was important for me to clarify the details about this traumatic night. As you can imagine, this prompted fans to go even crazier, with them taking sides and theorizing about who the person was that shot Megan. Megan made a bunch of posts following the event talking about how it was traumatic and how she luckily got a flesh wound and things like that, and she was also getting fed up with all of the internet theories. Then on August 20th, she officially named Tory Lanez as the shooter. This was on an Instagram live where she revealed all sorts of new insight to over 60,000 viewers.
So, since y'all hoes so worried about it, yes, this nigga Tory shot me. You shot me. And you got your publicists and your people going to these blogs lying and shit. Stop lying. I'm in the front seat. This nigga in the back seat. I get out the car. I'm done arguing. I don't want to argue no more. I get out. I'm walking away. This nigga from out the back seat of the car started shooting me. You shot me. I get to the hospital. The doctors do x-rays on my feet. Oh, ma'am, you got bullets in your feet. You got bullet fragments in your other foot. I'm thinking the doctors is the police, so I'm still trying not to tell them, like, nah, I didn't know I got shot. You know what I'm saying? I'm scared. Like, I've never been shot before.
By the end of Meg's rant, nearly 150,000 people were in her live, and the news went even more mega viral. But throughout all of these events, one thing that was strange is that Tory had kept his mouth shut. His silence lasted until September 24th, when Tory finally tweeted, "To my fans, I'm sorry for my silence, but respectfully, I got time today, 9 p.m. PST." And when 9 p.m. rolled around, Tory Lanez, funnily enough, released a 17-track album titled Daystar, which I think is funny when you have all this controversy around you. You just put out an album instead of addressing it. He did have a few lyrics throughout that assert his innocence and refute Megan's claims. He mentions all the backlash he's received at times, including multiple samples of people talking about the incident. On Money Over Fallouts, Tory sings, "How the f you get shot in your foot, don't hit no bones or tendons." Then on The Most High, Tory directly claimed his innocence and made several references to Megan's management team, Rock Nation, and this was used in some theories later on, but I'll hold on to that for later. Overall though, Daystar was advertised as a concept album that addressed everything, but he didn't do too much addressing on this project. Regardless, Tory's loyal fans still fought for him, and a bunch claimed he was innocent until proven guilty. And one very, very important thing to note is that around this time, Tory responded to an Instagram comment of a fan who was theorizing that Kelsey was the one who shot Megan, and he responded saying that she was not the shooter. So just keep this in mind going forward. Then shortly after the release of Daystar, the LA County District Attorney's Office hit Tory with multiple charges. They said he was facing 1 felony count each of assault with semi-automatic firearm, personal use of a firearm, and carrying a loaded, unregistered firearm in a vehicle. They also said on July 12th, the defendant and the 24-year-old victim got into an argument while riding in an SUV in the Hollywood Hills. The victim exited the vehicle, and Peterson is accused of shooting several times at her feet and wounding her. If convicted as charged, the defendant faces a possible maximum sentence of 22 years and 8 months in state prison. Tory's attorney pleaded not guilty on his behalf, and he was freed on a $190,000 bond. The next day, Tory further defended himself, tweeting, "Time will tell, and the truth will come to the light. I have all faith in God to show that. Loved all my fans and people that have stayed true to me and know my heart. A charge is not a conviction. If you have supported me or Meg through this, I genuinely appreciate you." In a GQ interview, Megan addressed why she originally hid Tory's crimes, which was a big point of contention, as I'm sure you can imagine, to a lot of the onlookers. She said that because the incident occurred during the peak of the BLM protests, it led to her being worried that she could be arrested or become a victim of police brutality. Megan also explained that Tory allegedly offered her and her friend Kelsey money to stay quiet about the shooting, although Tory's lawyer denied this. During the interview, Megan said, "I'm really scared because this is like right in the middle of all the protesting. Police are just killing everybody for no reason, and I'm thinking, I can't believe you even think I want to take some money, like you just shot me." Then 4 days after this, Megan released her album Good News, which featured the track Shots Fired. During the track, she doesn't name drop Tory, but basically goes at him in response to a bulk of the latest news and accusations. Another interesting thing to note is that on July 25th of 2021, Tory broke his protective order. On day 3 of Rolling Loud, DaBaby performed directly after Meg, and as a part of his performance, Tory appeared as a surprise guest. And yes, this is also the set where DaBaby said the homophobic stuff, if you were wondering. But because of this appearance, Tory was forced to appear in court, where his bail increased from $190 to $250K, which definitely hurt his case, with some people suggesting that it was a way to intimidate her. Regardless, this entire incident between the two was extremely public, with both of them making all sorts of accusations online, but it had not gone to trial yet. Tons of outlets, blogs, journalists, influencers, and artists were all chiming in on this situation, giving their opinion. At one point, Tory even put out a pair of tweets saying, "You can't buy and tweet your way out of this one. Not today. Good dick had me fucking 2 best friends, and I got caught. That's what I apologize for." It's sick how you spun it though. This actually led to Tory being ordered to not mention Meg or allude to her. Then though, on April 24th, Megan appeared in a televised interview for the first time discussing what happened during the shooting.
It was an argument because I was ready to go and everybody else wasn't ready to go. But that's like normal friend stuff. Like, we fuss about silly stuff all the time.
Megan says the argument escalated. She got out of the car, and that's when a rapper named Tory Lanez allegedly shot at her.
I get out the car, and it's like everything happens so fast. And all I hear is this man screaming. He said, "Dance," and he started shooting. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, he shot a couple of times. And I
so
was
is
so
he
scared.
in the car shooting from the car, Megan?
He is standing up over the window, shooting.
At first, she says she didn't realize she'd been shot until she saw the blood.
I like dropped down and I crawled in somebody's driveway. Like, I can't believe you shot me.
And for a little bit, things weren't really going on because Tory wasn't allowed to talk about it, at least until October 4th, where he acknowledged the case during a podcast with DJ Academics on Off the Record.
I am actively facing 24 years next month.
Wow.
Like, this is not no play situation. I'm not about to, I've been in this for 3 years. I've never played internet games with you guys, and I'm not gonna start now.
A couple weeks later, Tory was placed on house arrest after the singer August Alsina claimed that Lanez and 8 bodyguards jumped him after their show in Chicago. Then a couple months later, Tory was released from house arrest when the jury selection began. And this is where things get even more complicated. The trial began in December of 2022 with Megan Thee Stallion taking the stand. She told the story of how it all happened, saying that the incident began when Tory tried to instigate a fight between them. Kelsey testified as well, asking for immunity, which she received, saying that Tory was yelling with his gun, saying "dance bitch." Megan said she demanded to be let out of the car, and that's when Tory Lanez shot her. Megan also mentioned, "I don't feel like I want to be on this earth. I wish he would have just shot and killed me if I knew I had to go through this torture," which is in reference to, if you are unaware, how many people have just been dragging her name through the mud throughout this entire thing. Obviously, Tory's gotten his fair share of backlash, but that's because, you know, a lot of people think he's guilty. Regardless, one of the things that made this case so divisive was Kelsey's testimony, because her story was a little different from her original interview that was eventually admitted to evidence. Apparently, what she said casted doubt that Lanez attacked Stallion, because she said during the trial that she didn't see Tory with the gun. Her entire testimony was wishy-washy, back and forth, walked back things she said during her interview. She was being very vague and insinuating that Tory had possibly tried to pay her off, and that she didn't want to incriminate herself for some stuff, which is why she got immunity. Overall, it seemed like her testimony hurt the prosecution's case. It also helped Tory's defense because their main argument was, no, Tory didn't do it, Kelsey probably did it. But once her interview was shown to the jury, she could be seen explaining that Tory Lanez did attack both her and Megan. Kelsey gave an 80-minute interview in which she explained everything from her perspective.
So Quan was like, they were in their argument, I guess, Tory and Megan. And so what they were arguing about, I don't know. So it was kind of like, whoa, okay.
And so Megan's in the front, Quan's driving, you're in the back seat behind Quan.
Megan.
Or behind Megan, and Tory's behind Quan.
Correct. You know, next thing you know, the arguing, you know, began with Tory and Megan.
I'm not going to play the entire interview, obviously, but basically what she said led up to the shooting was Meg and Tory were arguing at Kylie's house, and afterwards they started arguing in the car, and it escalated up until the shooting.
This time, Tory demands Quan to let us out. He's like, let these hoes out, let these bitches out the car. This is my car. And so we're like, okay. Like, okay, we'll get out. I get out of my side, and no sooner do you know, you start hearing gunshots going off. I look up about it was 5 gunshots. I look up maybe at the 2nd or 3rd gunshot. That's when I look up, and you see Tory. He's now in the front seat. I guess he must have jumped over,
She continued to say Megan limped over to a driveway and she ran over to Megan. Kelsey also sent a text to her security saying, "Help, Tory shot Meg." This text was also verified and submitted to evidence. Again, like I said, there's over 80 minutes of details, but these are like the main ones. Kelsey also made it very clear when testifying that she didn't shoot Megan, although Tory's defense tried to make it seem like that was a possibility. Obviously, keep in mind this is just Kelsey's perspective, but it offers some interesting insight. Megan told the courtroom that Tory offered her $1 million to keep quiet about what had happened. Kelsey corroborated this, and Megan also mentioned a very important phone call where Tory called her to apologize. But before we get to that, other people testified too, like the guy who called 911, Sean Kelly. And he also had a bit of a confusing story similar to Kelsey. He was saying that he saw a fight between both Megan and Kelsey as well as the entire group, which did aid the defense's argument a little bit that Kelsey could have gotten into a fight with Meg and shot her, which she denied during her testimony. The main thing that Tory's lawyers were getting at is that there was a love triangle between the two girls and Tory, and that's why they got into a fight and why Kelsey shot Megan. But Sean also said, while testifying, "I want to be clear, I never saw a gun, okay? I just saw flashes." He first said it looked like a flash may have came from Kelsey, but then says that he saw the short guy, which is Tory, and it's really funny that's how he was referred to in the legal document, as the short guy. Regardless, he saw the short guy's arms extended and he saw 4 to 5 flashes coming from him. So as a witness, although his story may have been confusing, it may have also backfired on the defense's argument. There was also some gunshot residue that was found on Kelsey and Tory, but Tory's DNA wasn't found on the magazine, and the DNA on the gun came back inconclusive because it had too many samples on it. A lot of people see this and say there's no way that Tory could have shot her, but this is a fairly common thing when it comes to DNA evidence.
Guess what? You know how often it is you find fingerprints on a firearm? Not that often. It's more often that we don't find fingerprints on a firearm because firearms typically have oil on them. Right? And you have oil on your fingers. You're just generally, we have oil, just natural oils that come out of our skin. And when you have a firearm, generally you don't get a good fingerprint off of it. So the fact that there wasn't a fingerprint on this firearm does not say a whole lot about whether he held the gun or not.
I also saw some sources that were saying that the DNA evidence that they were able to find was like 90% likely to be male, but I couldn't see this, I didn't see a lot of articles corroborating it, and I don't know if this is just a fact that fans have ran with because I couldn't actually find it in the actual trial. It could not be real, I don't know, I just wanted to mention it. But like I said, probably the largest part of evidence from this trial was the phone call that Tory made. He made a phone call to Kelsey after he was arrested, and he also sent some text to Megan, which when you listen to and read with the idea in mind that Tory had just shot Megan, it seems very incriminating.
This is a free call from
Tory?
An inmate at LAPD jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. Press 1 to accept the call. To deny this call, thank you for using Telmate.
Y'all got out safe and everything.
Huh?
Y'all got out and everything, y'all good?
Megan's still in the hospital. I'm outside the hospital. Sure.
Regardless, I know she probably never ever gonna talk to me ever again, but bruh, I just want you to know, bruh. Nigga, I was just so fucking drunk, nigga. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on, bro. Deadass. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on, bro. Like, deadass, nigga. I'd never do some shit like that, bro. It's just that, nigga, I was so fucking drunk, nigga. I just didn't even understand what the fuck was going on, bro. Like, so, whatever,
Yeah.
bro. But, regardless, that's not gonna make anything right. And that's not gonna make my actions right, bro. But I'm just deeply sorry, bro. I never even moved like that, bro. Like, never moved like that at all, bro. Like, for real, dog. Yeah, bro, like.
I think honestly, I think we're gonna try to, because obviously, like, the longer you're in this, the more hot it's gonna get, because it's already on, like, there's no names released yet, but the report is already out,
They also showed the text that he sent to Megan where he said, "Meg, I know you're probably never going to talk to me again, but I genuinely want you to know I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart and I was just too drunk. Nonetheless, shit never would have happened and I can't change what I did. I just feel horrible." Of course, he didn't incriminate himself and say that he actually shot her, but that call being right after the incident, as well as the text of him so earnestly apologizing, it left the jury wondering what else he could have been talking about.
It kind of seemed like it was on the defense to try to explain that away, because while he never mentions a shooting or a gun in the call. The prosecutor even said in his closing argument that he'd gone over it a few times with his co-counsel, and they just can't figure out what else he could be talking about in this call. And they went through it line by line, focused on how he's asking about how Meg's in the hospital. This is his apology call to Kelsey. And we never really seemed to hear much about that from the defense in trial. Like, they really needed to explain what that call was. And it was kind of just left unopened until prosecutors brought it up again in the closing.
On the final day of the trial, the deputy DA rebutted what Tory's lawyer was saying. She said Kelsey was a terrible liar on stand and wasn't suited for the label of criminal mastermind like Tory's lawyer was suggesting. And the reason this case was so divisive was for multiple reasons. Like, for one, people struggling to understand the whole DNA stuff, or Kelsey's terrible testimony, backtracking on a lot of what she said in her interview, or how the bodyguard never even showed up to testify. And probably one of the biggest points of contention was the fact that Megan admitted in trial that she originally lied about what happened when she first talked to the police. Like we discussed, she lied and said she stepped on glass. She lied about the shooting at first, but said she was being honest now in the trial. And the medical report said there was bullet fragments that were still in her feet, despite her originally saying she didn't get shot. So because of all the very confusing elements of this trial, what it really boiled down to was Megan's word versus Tory's plus some additional evidence. And because of the text, the phone call, the fact that police rolled up and Tory was in the front seat with the gun, and the fact that Megan really was shot, the jury sided with her story. Tory was found guilty of assault with a semi-automatic firearm, discharging a firearm with gross negligence, and carrying a loaded unregistered firearm in a vehicle. His sentencing kept getting pushed back as his lawyers were trying to get him another trial, but eventually that was rejected and Tory was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Many people have come up with a bunch of theories that may help better explain the situation. I'm not going to go too deep into some of these theories because there's not really much evidence behind any of them, and I know that's going to upset a lot of theorists, but I mean, you just gotta show me the proof and maybe I'll talk about it. There's not much to these. And one of the main theories that I've seen is that because Megan was signed to Jay-Z's Roc Nation back in 2019, is that for whatever reason they set Tory up or wanted to bail her out. Basically, Tory Lanez was saying that his lawyer Sean Hawley was connected to Roc Nation. Part of this is because she loosely inspired the show Reasonable Doubt, and that she was also a producer on the show. Reasonable Doubt is also the name of Jay-Z's first album. In the series, it featured the remix of Megan Thee Stallion's song Savage, which featured Beyonce, Jay-Z's wife. So Tory was saying that his lawyer's connections to the show, Meg, Beyonce, and possibly even Jay-Z and Roc Nation, was impacting the case. According to Vibe, the Toronto Star also believes Hawley was acting under Roc Nation's orders when it was suggested that he accept a plea deal, which he declined. Hawley also stepped away from Tory's defense 5 days before he was found guilty. In response to this, she said, Mr. Peterson, which is Tory's real last name, brought these meritless claims to the state bar over a year ago, and they were summarily rejected and the matter was promptly closed. His actions to publicize this failed effort are likely tied to the appeal of his criminal conviction, for which I wish him well. I've never had business ties to Roc Nation, and Roc Nation has nothing to do with the television show Reasonable Doubt, which I co-produce. He also claimed that Roc Nation had told him not to make a statement. In response to this, according to Vibe, a reputable source told them nobody on Jay-Z's team or Roc Nation had anything to do with this Reasonable Doubt show. I don't know if they're conflating the fact that Jay has an album called Reasonable Doubt, and maybe that's the connection they're drawing, but nobody had anything to do with that show the lawyer was a part of. Even if they did, it had absolutely nothing to do with the case. The case doesn't involve Jay or Roc Nation. Megan was the victim, and Megan is being managed by Roc Nation. It's so left field. Tory's dad has also publicly called out Jay-Z and Roc Nation. But like I said, there just isn't really any grounds to this. All the other theories that I've seen is just people mentioning that Kelsey was paid off, which is why she blamed Tory, and a bunch of stuff like that. But for the most part, all of this has either been debunked in the trial or doesn't have enough evidence to support it. Which again brings us to today, where this new evidence is being dropped by Tory's defense team, and all these people are petitioning to get him freed. Like we saw throughout this video, much of this evidence that Tory's legal team posted online has either been covered in trial or submitted when asking for retrial. But now they are putting it online, like Megan's lawyers said, trying to repackage it as new information. And I know I didn't show you guys the entire 36 Hours Later website, but if you guys click on it and scroll through it, pretty much everything on that website I have covered or has been discussed in the trial or has been discussed in some of Tory's appeals to get a retrial or all that stuff. It's all there. So this website really doesn't actually have much new information. This is an old clip that I'm about to play, but I think Sean C said it best when he said,
if you want like general rule of thumb, if you're trying to look innocent, your best bet is never to go into a case like this trying to harm the reputation of the other person, trying to poke holes in their story. The only thing that you have to do is prove your innocence. That is it. And this whole time, it was so nasty seeing all these random weird stories come out about Megan. I'm like, bro, how are you innocent is the problem. That's the biggest issue. That's what's ruining your rep and ultimately what led you in the position that you are in right now. Is because you tried to make her look crazy as opposed to make you look innocent.
Tory's defense spent a lot of time trying to make Kelsey look bad and waging this social media war on Megan, when in reality it would have been better if they had just tried to get more concrete evidence that Tory wasn't the guy behind the gun. Like I mentioned earlier, they could have called the driver to the stand, but they didn't. And if he was truly innocent, the driver would have corroborated that. But if there's any reason they didn't call him to the stand, it's probably because they thought under oath he would just fess up to what actually happened. And their argument that Kelsey was the one behind the gun would have been a whole lot stronger because yes, Megan has lied. Yes, Kelsey has lied. But the only other witness who was there was Tory, and he has also lied. When this all started happening and fans were speculating Kelsey shot Megan, remember when I said Tory said it wasn't true in response to a fan on Instagram? But years later, his defense's whole argument was Kelsey shot Megan, so he has also lied about this too. So everyone's lied, but with all the evidence that people saw, it ended up looking like Megan was the one who actually ended up telling the truth. When you have 3 witnesses that have all lied, as well as some confusing witnesses like the 911 caller and some inconclusive DNA evidence, all you're really left with is the apology phone call, where they found Tory and Meg, where they found the gun, and their words against one another, which is exactly what the jury was left with when they determined that Tory Lanez was guilty. If you guys have seen any of my other legal related content, you'll know that I like to call in the opinion of CLR Bruce Rivers. And remember that new evidence where Kelsey's bodyguard claims that he overheard her saying that she's the one who shot Meg? Well, Bruce Rivers doesn't think that that's enough to get them a retrial.
I mean, she did have another injury and she said it was glass. And she gave an explanation, but that all happened in his trial. And she was cross-examined, and you don't get a second bite at the apple just because. Now, if this other evidence, wasn't available at the time of the trial, and it exonerates him because it's an alternative perpetrator, perhaps that, and if it's just the bodyguard saying this, does that get him anywhere? Probably not.
On the flip side, Megan is still suffering from this too, as the case has become a huge stain on her legacy, whether she was in the wrong or not, with people constantly bringing it up anytime she's mentioned. I'll admit this case has been nothing short of confusing, especially with all the conflicting comments and narratives from Megan, Tory, Kelsey, the media, influencers, content creators, YouTubers. But when you boil it down to the evidence in the trial, which I, for the most part, covered all of it, I think it becomes pretty clear what the reality was, especially with that phone call. Pretty much all there is to the case. I glanced over a few different things that I didn't think were super important, but if you think I missed something super important, let me know in the comments down below. I was just tired of hearing about this for years and never actually getting a full-on breakdown of it, so I figured I'd break it down myself. But yeah, so if you guys like this video, make sure to like and even consider subscribing down below. Other than that, you might also like my breakdown of the Diddy trial and how that's been going. So yeah, other than that, thank you guys for watching. It's been your boy Matty Balls, and I'll see you guys next time.